What if I told you that some of the biggest breakthroughs in mathematics didn't come from a university classroom, but from the dreams of one man? Well, that's what we're diving into today. This is the incredible story of Srinivasa Ramanujan, a self-taught genius from India who pretty much had zero formal training but managed to change the world of math forever. It's a story that just blurs the lines between genius, faith, and infinity itself. And this is where the story gets, well, a little mystical. See, Ramanujan didn't think his genius came from studying or from books. He was convinced it came from a divine source. He said that in his dreams, a goddess named Namagiri would literally speak to him, not in words, but in the language of numbers, showing him these incredible formulas that he would just scramble to write down the second he woke up. Okay, so to really get Ramanujan, you have to go back to where it all started for him, a small town in Tamil Nadu, India. For him, the temple and the blackboard were basically the same thing. His journey into mathematics wasn't really an academic thing. It was a spiritual quest. And this wasn't just some phase. He held on to this belief for his entire life. So you can imagine, right? Some of the greatest mathematicians in the world would ask him, "How did you get this result? Show us the proof." And his answer was always the same. "The goddess showed it to me." For Ramanujan, math was an act of pure faith. And what's so wild is that this divine inspiration, it started in the humblest of places. We're talking about a mind that would completely reshape modern mathematics, born into a family that was really struggling to make ends meet. So the big question is, how on earth did this prodigy come from such an unlikely beginning? I mean, his talent was just off the charts from the get-go. By the time he was 13, he'd already mastered advanced trigonometry on his own. Then, in 1903, he gets his hands on this one book, just a simple book packed with 5,000 theorems. That became his entire world, his training ground. But here's the thing. His obsession with math meant that, well, the regular school system just didn't know what to do with him.
And this slide? Wow, it just lays it all out, doesn't it? His focus was singular. He could blaze through a math exam in half an hour, no problem. But a subject like physiology, he failed it 3 times. Partly because he was a devout Brahmin and refused to dissect an animal. He just couldn't be bothered with anything that wasn't math. The college saw a failing student. They totally missed the genius who was hiding in plain sight.
So here he is, no degree, working as a simple clerk. It really looked like his genius might just fade away, unnoticed. But he knew the ideas in his notebooks were revolutionary. So he took a massive gamble. He wrote a letter to the top mathematicians in the world, all the way over at Cambridge University in England, hoping to find the recognition he just wasn't getting at home. And man, the path was not easy. He was literally living off the charity of friends and priests while trying to support his young wife. But, and this is so important, a small group of people in the Indian Mathematical Society did see his spark. Even when they couldn't fully understand his work, they knew it was special. They were the ones who pushed him, who told him, "You've got to send this stuff to England." So, what was in this letter that just stunned the world's best mathematicians? It was jam-packed with these mind-bending formulas. But let's just zoom in on one idea he was playing with, something called partitions. It starts with a question that sounds super simple. Just take the number 5. How many different ways can you write it as a sum of whole numbers? Think about it for a second. Turns out, there are 7 ways. Okay, simple enough for a small number like 5, right? You could probably figure that out yourself with a bit of time. But what Ramanujan offered in his letter was a key, a formula, to unlock this for any number, no matter how ridiculously huge. And trust me, these numbers get big fast. For the number 200, the answer is nearly 4 trillion. I mean, that's just mind-boggling. Before Ramanujan trying to calculate that, forget about it. It was practically impossible. And here's this unknown clerk from India in his letter with a formula that could do it. That is what blew their minds in Cambridge. Now, the man who got this letter was G.H. Hardy, a total giant in the math world. At first, he just thought it was a prank and tossed it aside. I mean, the formulas were bizarre, completely alien, and they came with zero proof. But then, he and his colleague, Littlewood, took a closer look, and they slowly realized, wait a minute, this isn't a crank, this is a genius. And that's how one of the greatest partnerships in science history began. And you couldn't have picked 2 people who were more different. It was like the ultimate odd couple of mathematics. You had Ramanujan, who ran on pure, raw intuition, the goddess reveals them to me guy. And then you had Hardy, a product of the super strict European tradition, where proof is everything. If you can't prove it, it doesn't exist. So Ramanujan would come up with some stunning new idea, and it was Hardy's job to help him build a logical framework to actually prove it was true. And the results? Oh, they were absolutely spectacular. Their work together led to things like the Hardy-Ramanujan formula for partitions, this stunningly accurate tool for a once impossible problem. It was a triumph that neither of them could have ever achieved alone. The perfect blend of Eastern intuition and Western rigor. But here's the heartbreaking part. While his mind was soaring, Ramanujan the man was really, really struggling. Imagine it. You're a devout Hindu, a strict vegetarian, and you're dropped into England during World War I with food rationing and all. The cold was unbearable. He didn't even know how to use blankets properly at first. And with the college pretty much turned into a war hospital, he was just completely and utterly alone. So this next chapter of his life is just a tragic irony, isn't it? Just as his health is completely falling apart under all this strain, his professional recognition is hitting its absolute peak. It was literally a race against the clock. I mean, just look at this incredible explosion of work. In only 5 years at Cambridge, he published over 21 papers. And these weren't just any papers. They were revolutionizing whole fields of mathematics. You get the sense he was pouring every last drop of energy he had into his work, even as his body was giving out. Hardy could see what was happening. He saw how frail Ramanujan was getting. So he starts pushing and pushing hard to get him the honors he deserved and to get them fast. And he does. Ramanujan gets a degree from Cambridge, and then in 1918, he's elected a Fellow of the Royal Society. That's the same honor given to Isaac Newton. But just 2 years later, after returning to India, he was gone, at just 32 years old. You know, there's this one story that for me just sums up his genius perfectly. He's incredibly sick, lying in a hospital bed. His friend Hardy comes to visit, and he's trying to make some awkward small talk, right? So he mentions that the number of his taxicab on the way over was 1729, and says something like, kind of a dull number, don't you think? And Ramanujan, without missing a beat, apparently props himself up and says, no, it's a very interesting number. It is the smallest number expressible as the sum of two cubes in two different ways. I mean, come on. Even on his deathbed, ravaged by illness, his brain is just operating on a whole other planet, seeing patterns where the rest of us see nothing. So he's gone at 32. What's the legacy? What did this man leave behind? Well, his death was an absolute tragedy, but his work has turned out to be immortal. And this is the really incredible part. Those notebooks he left behind, mathematicians and scientists are still pulling ideas from them to make new discoveries today. We're talking about finding applications in fields he couldn't have even dreamed of, like the physics of black holes, string theory, and even modern cancer research. His work is more alive now than ever before. His passion just never, ever faded. After he went back to India, literally too weak to get out of bed, he kept working. In his final letter to Hardy, he was describing this brand new concept he'd come up with, something he called Mach theta functions. It was an idea so advanced, so out there, that it took other mathematicians decades just to begin to understand what he was even talking about. So we'll end with this really powerful thought from India's first Prime Minister, Jawaharlal Nehru. Ramanujan's story, it's about this 1 in a billion genius, for sure. But it also makes you ask a bigger question, right? He was discovered almost by pure luck. It makes you wonder how many more Ramanujans are out there, right now, just waiting for a chance to change the world.